Is it a game or is it a puzzle? That's the question. Whether 'tis nobler in the mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous clockworks, or to take arms against a sea of elusive challenges by cards and dice, and by opposing end them, to win, to lose, perchance to dream of getting better at it. The difference between a puzzle and a game, I think, is that a puzzle has one solution, or at best a few alternate solutions. They are designed to be solved. Work it out, find the solution, and move on. There are many, many puzzles in the world. There are jigsaws, mazes, riddles, or tangram challenges. There are tangled wire puzzles, 3D locking puzzles, rings in a bottle and all that. The old sliding 15 puzzle, Rubik's Cube, Chinese puzzle boxes, mechanical puzzles, last man standing puzzles like the triangle or the French solitaire. And there are some logical, self-working puzzles like in the Towers of Hanoi. A solo game, on the other hand, is designed to not be solved, to not win the same goal every time. A good solo game, anyway. A solo activity that provides variations in the win condition or in the strategies and tactics that it takes to achieve that victory condition. A puzzle that has a single solution or a consistent solution but still has variable starting points, it kind of crosses over into gamehood. A beautiful example of that is BoxOoff. BoxOoff is a game that is for one person. It starts out with a random setup for that initial setup, but the goal is always to remove all the pieces from the board. Although it looks like a puzzle at first glance, it's very game-like in its personality. I put the links for BoxOoff in the description below. Well, this week I'd like to talk about some puzzles. Again, they have a kind of a game-like feel to them, even though they're puzzles. And I must begin by acknowledging the fact that there are some very intense fans of these little kinds of puzzles, and I hope I can do that hobby fair in this video. And mostly I want to thank the folks at puzzlemad.co.uk and robspuzzlepage.com. A fantastic resource if you're researching puzzles and you'd like to know a little bit more about that hobby. Let's start out with Calvin O. Brown. Mr. Brown was the founder and president of Set Screw and Manufacturing Company in Bartlett, Illinois. The company was started in 1935 and it remains a family business to this day. Calvin Brown created a bunch of little peg games to promote his business by using his set screws as the pegs for the games. Eventually, these puzzles were branded as Setco puzzles, and the side business kind of took on a life of its own and became very popular. Set Screw and Manufacturing still exists, but doesn't make games anymore. One of the most popular games that Setco produced was called Bullseye, and that's been reproduced by a lot of different companies around the world ever since. I'll tell you a little more about that later in the video. In January of 1957, Mr. Brown received a patent for 2 games in the same patent, and that was patent number 2778641, if you'd like to look it up. One of the 2 games is a pair of septagons that are tangent to each other. I'll show you a little more detail later. The other of the games is a hendecagon, which is an 11-sided polygon, and so it's a ring of 11 circles. We'll talk about that game first. The hendecagon is nothing to be taken lightly. It's one of those mathematical conundrums. The actual geometry works out that the inside angle between the faces is 147.2727272727272727272727. Well, it goes on forever. It's one of those irrational numbers. It doesn't exist. Therefore, hendecagons don't exist. But they do. I mean, they're real. You can get pretty close to the shape if you fudge one of the vertices just a little bit, and nobody's going to notice. The game board, the hendecagon, has 11 holes in a circle, and 2 of those holes are distinguished by rings. Between these are 4 unmarked holes on one side and 5 holes on the other. These 2 ringed holes are the start and finish positions of the odd-colored peg in the game. In this case, it's red. There are 4 other pegs of a complementary color, in this case blue, which will start with 2 on each side of the first peg. Pegs are moved by a short jump, a pretty typical puzzle mechanic. And the objective is to get the red peg to the other ringed hole. Well, like any good puzzle, it's tricky. Calvin Brown never published this game. I think he might have felt that it was too simple, too solvable. Well, before we go on, let me take just a minute to thank you for tuning in. I'm glad that you like watching what I have to offer, and I would hope that maybe you could click the like button and the subscribe button and share it with your friends and so on, and especially click that little bell so I can let you know automatically that there's a new video been uploaded to the channel. Leave me your comments and suggestions, and remember to support our sponsor for this episode, the letter M. Now let's look at the other puzzle in the patent, which kind of takes this concept a little bit further. The board, as noted before, is 2 septagons that share a common point, creating a figure 8 shape. If you're curious, the inside angle between the faces is about 128 degrees. The playing pieces are lettered according to the original specifications S, E, T, K, and O. The other 2 pieces are not lettered. Again, the typical jumping move is exclusively employed here, and all pieces jump from point to point around the figure 8 track. Their ultimate objective is to move everything around so that the pieces end up like this: S, E, T, K, O, plus the other 2 unmarked pieces as shown here. Now imagine if those other 2 pieces were numbered or lettered as well. This whole puzzle might be impossible. So there's some flexibility available there as to when those pieces get in place and which is which. But again, for some reason, Citco never published this game. Mr. Brown had quite a few patents to his name, a few more games, but a lot of machinery and machine processes and so on in conjunction with his business. But his wood and screw puzzles are probably his greatest legacy. 10 years before Calvin Brown was born, William Breitenbach applied for a patent for a puzzle in June of 1899. The game came to be known as Breitenbach's Great 13, and soon after was being sold in catalogs and novelty shops across the USA. And it's undeniably his most popular puzzle. It's a jump and capture puzzle, like the triangle puzzle or French solitaire, and it's somewhat deceiving in its simplicity. John Beasley is an expert in puzzles, and he happened to work out all the mathematics behind it. But for the average puzzler on the street like me, it's still quite a challenge. The board is indeed an arrangement of 13 points, and it can be set up with the starting vacant point anywhere on the board. But the default is to start with the center point empty and 12 pegs in the other positions. Jumps could be made along any of the lines on the board. The primary goal is to leave just 1 peg on the board at the center point. And that's all there is to the game. Simple, elegant, but challenging at the same time. That's why it's a classic. Breitenbach's patent expired in 1907, and others immediately began to publish the game. In fact, Calvin O. Brown's Citco company included a version of the Great 13 in their catalog. They called it Bullseye. Bullseye, aside from it's just a more appealing name for the game, enjoyed the quality of a Citco game with a fine walnut board and brass and nickel-plated pieces. This one puzzle has been in production for over a century. A fairly well-known version of it was included in Stancraft's Hoyle series. This was in the 1970s. And as a matter of fact, Setco made those boards for the Stancraft company. There are more peg puzzles in this Stancraft Hoyle series, and a lot of collectors seek out as full of a collection as they can. Here is a picture of others in the collection. Now, in 1999, Nob Yoshigahara repackaged the Great 13 for a more youthful theme, and it was published by ThinkFun, a company that was formerly known as Binary Arts. And they released it as Hoppers. Now, I don't have a copy of Hoppers, but I do have a copy of Frog. It's exactly the same game. It is the Great 13, but with a playful package around it. And it's interesting that the box says it's for ages 6 and up. We kind of infer that it's a little kid's game, but it's not really. It's very much a challenge for adults as well. Breitenbach's Great 13 has a sort of a fractal nature to it, in that you can continue to put circumscribed squares around the previous shape and grow it larger and larger and larger. It gets a little out of hand there, but it does have that nature. And Breitenbach knew that, and he created a version of the game that had one more square around it, 4 more holes, 4 more pegs, and he called this the Great 17. So he wasn't that great about naming conventions. But the Great 17 was actually patented several months before the Great 13. It was in March of 1899. The game is played exactly the same way as the Great 13, but obviously there's more to it. So if you're looking for more challenge, just go bigger. So if you're alone or with somebody, there's always something to play. So be sure to play every day. Okay, then Rigel. 2 rerolls. That's better. 20 plus 4, 24. Get 1 more point for me. Yes, if you're looking for a solo game, might I recommend, please, Sancti at Malum. Sancti at Malum is one that I came up with myself, and it's obviously cards and dice. A fun little solo game. You actually can play it with multiple people. I think it works pretty good for a couple. I think it would get a little bit cumbersome with 4 people, but I designed it as a solo pastime. So check it out sometime. It's Sancti at Malum, which is Latin for the holy and evil.